There's a graphic designer in Austin making $72,000 a year doing exactly what she went to school for. Her Instagram is full of client wins, aesthetic workspaces, and caption that reads, "Doing what I love every single day." Walk into her apartment and you'll find a MacBook Pro, a Wacom tablet she saved 3 months to buy, a bookshelf of design theory hardcovers, and a succulents and string lights setup she's recreated twice for different rentals across different cities. She has a portfolio that gets compliments. She has a job title that makes her parents proud. She has a waiting list of freelance clients who want her specifically. What she doesn't have is $1,000 in savings. Not because she's reckless, not because she doesn't care, but because the career she built her entire identity around, the one she was told to pursue, the one people call a gift, has been quietly bleeding her dry since the day she graduated. She is not the exception. She is the rule. According to a 2024 Bankrate survey, 57% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense from savings. But when you isolate that figure to workers in creative, nonprofit, and mission-driven fields, that number climbs past 70%. Workers in the passion economy, design, education, social work, journalism, the arts, earn a median income 23% lower than their counterparts in fields they chose for compensation over calling. And the gap isn't closing. It's widening. Read that again. The assumption most people carry is simple. If you're good at something, if you work hard enough, if you build a real career out of it, the money will follow. The passion economy sold us that story. The data tells a completely different one. What you're witnessing is called the passion career poverty trap. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how it works and what it actually costs to love what you do. That designer in Austin, she never got a class on any of this. Nobody did. That's exactly why Begin Success exists, to give you the financial clarity that the passion economy never will. Subscribe if you want to be the person who actually understands what's happening to their money. Here's the assumption almost everyone carries into adulthood, the one nobody questions because it feels too obvious to challenge. If you're struggling financially, it's because you don't earn enough. Fix the income, fix the problem. It sounds logical. It sounds fair. And for the designer in Austin, for the teacher in Chicago, for the social worker in Seattle clocking 50-hour weeks for a salary that hasn't kept up with rent since 2019, it feels like the only explanation that makes sense. I just need to earn more. Then I'll be okay. But here's where the data gets uncomfortable. Research consistently shows that income increases in passion-driven careers do not produce proportional improvements in financial stability. A 2023 Fidelity study found that workers who received a meaningful raise, defined as 10% or more, in creative and mission-driven fields spent 85% of that additional income within 90 days. Not on debt, not on savings, on lifestyle upgrades that felt earned, justified, and completely invisible in hindsight. A better apartment, a newer laptop, a vacation that doubled as a portfolio shoot. The raise came. The financial anxiety stayed. And that's when the assumption fully collapses, because this was never an income problem. It was always a structural problem disguised as an income problem. The passion career doesn't just pay less. It is specifically designed, through unpaid internships, project-based contracts, portfolio-first hiring, and the cultural mythology of doing what you love, to keep workers financially underprepared while keeping them emotionally overcommit. You weren't bad with money. You were operating inside a system that made financial stability structurally harder to reach, then told you the difficulty was personal. That system has a name, the passion career poverty trap. It is not a mindset failure. It is not a discipline problem. It is a documented economic pattern where the workers most emotionally invested in their careers are the least financially protected by them, and the most reluctant to admit it, because admitting it means confronting the story they built their identity around. The trap doesn't just take your money. It takes your permission to even question the arrangement. And that is exactly what makes it so effective and so dangerous. Let's put real numbers on this, because the trap doesn't become visible until you see it from every angle. Start with income. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics 2024 Occupational Outlook, the median annual wage for graphic designers sits at $58,910. For social workers, $55,350. For journalists and news reporters, $48,370. For fine artists, $58,550. Meanwhile, the median wage for all occupations across the U.S. economy sits at $61,900. Workers in passion-driven fields aren't just earning less in isolated pockets. They are systemically earning below the national median while carrying above-average educational debt to get there. Now layer in the debt picture. A 2024 Education Data Initiative report found that workers in arts, humanities, and social sciences, the academic pipelines that feed most passion careers, graduate with an average of $38,500 in student loan debt. Their counterparts in engineering and computer science graduate with comparable debt, but enter fields paying 40% to 60% more on average. The passion career worker starts the race already behind, and the gap compounds every single year. Now look at retirement. A 2023 Vanguard How America Saves report found that employees in nonprofit and creative sectors have median retirement account balances 47% lower than workers in corporate and technical fields at the same age. Not because they contribute less as a percentage, but because the base salary those percentages are drawn from is structurally smaller. The math punishes them twice. And then there's the emergency fund data. The 2024 Federal Reserve Report on the Economic Well-Being of U.S. Households found that 63% of workers earning under $50,000 annually, a bracket that captures the majority of passion career workers, could not cover 3 months of expenses if their income stopped tomorrow. 3 months. The standard minimum financial buffer that every personal finance resource recommends. Gone before the crisis even peaks. Each of these statistics attacks the problem from a different direction: income, debt, retirement, liquidity, and every single one tells the same story. The passion career poverty trap is not anecdotal. It is not a personal failure showing up in isolated cases. It is a measurable, documented, multidimensional pattern playing out across millions of workers who were told that loving their work was enough of a foundation to build a life on. It was not. So what do financially secure people actually do differently? Because here's what's striking. The research on actual millionaires tells a completely different story than the one the passion economy sold us. And the contrast is not subtle. In 2023, Dr. Sarah Stanley Falaw, daughter of Thomas Stanley, the researcher behind The Millionaire Next Door, published updated findings from the most comprehensive study of American millionaire households conducted in the last decade. The data covered over 600 verified millionaire households across the United States. And the single most consistent variable separating wealth builders from everyone else was not income level. It was not career prestige. It was not even investment strategy. It was the deliberate decoupling of identity from occupation. Millionaires in the study were statistically less likely to describe their work as a calling, a passion, or a purpose. They were more likely to describe it as a vehicle, a mechanism for generating resources that funded a life they had consciously designed. That distinction sounds cold, but financially, it is transformative. Stanley Falaw introduced a framework her father originally coined that has never been more relevant: the difference between a PAW and a UAW. A PAW, a prodigious accumulator of wealth, builds assets at a rate significantly higher than their income peer group. They live below their means not as a sacrifice, but as a strategy. They are largely invisible. Their net worth does not match their lifestyle, because their lifestyle was never the point. A UAW, an under-accumulator of wealth, earns well, spends in proportion to that earning, and builds almost nothing. They are not irresponsible. They are simply operating without a gap between income and identity. Every raise gets absorbed. Every upgrade feels justified. The lifestyle and the paycheck grow together, and wealth never materializes. The passion career worker is structurally primed to become a UAW, not because they are undisciplined, but because the culture of passion careers actively rewards visible investment in the craft over invisible accumulation of assets. Buying the better camera, the upgraded software, the industry conference ticket, these are not just purchases. They are identity signals. And identity signals are extraordinarily difficult to cut. The millionaires in Stanley Fallaw's research had quietly made a different choice. They separated who they were from what they did, and that separation was worth, on average, $3.2 million by retirement. Here's what I find most striking about everything we've covered so far. The trap is not arithmetic. The numbers are not the problem. Because if this were purely a math problem, if passion career workers simply didn't understand that spending more than you earn creates a deficit, it would be fixable with a spreadsheet. Download a budget app. Track your categories. Done. But that's not what's happening. And the psychology explains exactly why. The first mechanism is lifestyle inflation, and in passion careers, it operates differently than anywhere else. In a corporate job, lifestyle inflation is driven by status. You earn more, you signal more. But in creative and mission-driven fields, lifestyle inflation is driven by identity reinforcement. The designer doesn't upgrade her equipment to impress colleagues. She upgrades because the better tool makes her feel more legitimate, more serious, more like the professional she's working so hard to become. Every purchase is quietly justified as an investment in the craft, which makes it psychologically invisible as a financial leak. The second mechanism is the hedonic treadmill. Research by psychologists Brickman and Campbell established decades ago that humans adapt rapidly to improved circumstances, returning to a baseline level of satisfaction regardless of what changes. For passion career workers, this is devastating in a specific way. The raise that was supposed to finally create breathing room gets absorbed into a new normal within 90 days. The relief evaporates. The anxiety returns. And the only logical conclusion the brain draws is, I need to earn more. The treadmill keeps moving. The finish line keeps moving with it. The third mechanism is social comparison, amplified, in passion careers, by the hyper-visible nature of creative communities. Instagram portfolios, LinkedIn project announcements, studio tours, industry events. The passion economy runs on public visibility, which means passion career workers are in a constant, low-grade comparison loop with peers whose financial reality they cannot actually see. They see the output. They see the aesthetic. They do not see the credit card balance funding it. These three mechanisms, lifestyle inflation disguised as professional investment, a hedonic treadmill with no exit ramp, and social comparison operating at full volume, do not respond to willpower. They respond to awareness and architecture. You cannot discipline your way out of a psychological system you don't know you're inside, which is exactly why most passion career workers never escape it, until something forces them to look directly at where the money is actually going. Let's open the books. Because the psychology only becomes actionable when you can see exactly where the money disappears, category by category, dollar by dollar. This is the spending autopsy. And for the average passion career worker earning $58,000 a year, it is not comfortable viewing. Housing, $1,450 per month, $17,400 per year. The first fixed cost trap hits immediately. Passion careers cluster in expensive cities, New York, Los Angeles, Austin, Chicago, because that's where the industries, the clients, and the opportunities live. The graphic designer cannot relocate to rural Kansas and maintain her client base. The journalist cannot cover the city from 3 states away. Geography is not optional. So the passion career worker pays a location premium that their salary was never designed to absorb. at $1,450 per month. Housing alone consumes 30% of a $58,000 gross income before a single other bill arrives. Craft investment, $300 to $600 per month, up to $7,200 per year. Software subscriptions, equipment upgrades, online courses, industry memberships, portfolio hosting. The tools of the trade are not cheap, and in passion careers, they are psychologically non-negotiable. Adobe Creative Cloud alone runs $659 annually. Add a course platform subscription, a professional association membership, and one equipment upgrade per year, and the craft itself is costing $400 per month minimum. This category is almost never tracked as a fixed cost. It should be. Lifestyle signaling, $400 to $800 per month, up to $9,600 per year. Coffee shops as workspaces, networking dinners, industry events, the wardrobe that matches the aesthetic of the field. These are not vanity expenses in the passion economy. They are perceived as professional necessities. The problem is they are fluid, socially driven, and almost impossible to cut without feeling like a retreat from the career itself. This is the fixed cost trap at its most insidious. Expenses that feel optional but function as mandatory. What remains after these three categories alone? On a $58,000 salary, approximately $3,800 take-home per month after taxes. Housing, craft investment, and lifestyle signaling consume roughly $2,250 to $2,850 monthly. That leaves between $950 and $1,550 for food, transportation, health expenses, debt repayment, and savings combined. There is no savings category left. It was crowded out before it ever had a chance. This is not a discipline failure. This is a structural architecture problem, a fixed cost ceiling so low that financial breathing room was never actually available in the first place. And it gets worse when you run the compound math. Let's run the actual numbers. Because this is where the trap stops feeling abstract and starts feeling irreversible. Two people. Same age, 25. Same starting point, 0 savings, 0 investments. Same passion career field. The only difference is one decision made at the beginning of year one. Scenario A, the trap. Our designer in Austin takes home $3,800 per month. After housing, craft investment, and lifestyle signaling, she has $1,200 left. She tells herself she'll start saving seriously when she earns more. She puts away nothing consistently. Over 20 years, her income grows modestly, averaging $65,000 annually by her mid-30s, $72,000 by her mid-40s. Each raise gets absorbed by upgraded housing, better equipment, a growing lifestyle floor. By 45, she has accumulated $14,000 in retirement savings. Scattered, inconsistent, the result of occasional good intentions, not architecture. Scenario B, the restructure. Same income, same city, same career. But this designer makes one uncomfortable structural decision on day one. She treats 10% of every paycheck as a non-negotiable, automated transfer into a low-cost index fund before she sees it. $380 per month at 25. She adjusts her fixed cost ceiling to accommodate it. A slightly smaller apartment, no software she doesn't actively use, a harder line on lifestyle signaling expenses. The craft investment stays. The social spending gets trimmed, not eliminated. The 10% never moves. Over 20 years, at a conservative 7% average annual market return, that $380 per month compounds into $197,000 by age 45. Not retirement money yet, but a foundation, a number that has weight, a number that generates its own momentum. The delta, $183,000. Generated not by a higher salary, not by a side hustle, not by a lucky investment, by one structural decision made at 25 and never reversed. Now extend both scenarios to age 65. Scenario A, with sporadic late career catch-up contributions averaging $500 per month from age 45 onward, reaches retirement with approximately $198,000 saved, enough for roughly 6.5 years of median living expenses. Then it's gone. Scenario B, with the same 10% contribution rate maintained across a rising income, reaches retirement with approximately $892,000, a number that, invested conservatively, generates $35,000 per year indefinitely without touching the principal. The total gap over a working lifetime, $694,000. Not because of income, not because of talent, because of the moment the trap was either accepted or rejected. That moment is always earlier than people think. So how do you escape it? Honestly, not with a hack, not with a side hustle that fixes the structural problem without addressing it. The escape from the passion career poverty trap requires uncomfortable choices, and the first one is the most uncomfortable of all. You have to separate who you are from what you earn, not abandon the craft, not betray the calling, but create a deliberate, conscious gap between your professional identity and your financial architecture. The passion stays. The financial autopilot gets dismantled. Because as long as every spending decision is filtered through the lens of what does this say about me as a creative, the trap owns you completely. The second uncomfortable choice is auditing your fixed cost ceiling ruthlessly and honestly. Not your discretionary spending, your fixed costs. The rent that locks you into a location premium. The subscriptions that renew silently every month. The baseline lifestyle floor that rose with every raise and never came back down. These are the numbers that determine your financial outcome, not the occasional luxury purchase that gets blamed in every budget conversation. Cut the floor, not the ceiling. The third uncomfortable choice is automating the escape before you feel ready. Scenario B in our math proof did not work because that designer felt financially comfortable enough to invest. She wasn't. She automated the 10% precisely because she knew she would spend it if she saw it. The automation is not a reward for financial discipline. It is the replacement for it. And the fourth, the one nobody in the passion economy will say out loud, is accepting that your career may never pay you what your talent deserves. That is not a personal failure. That is a structural reality of industries built on abundant supply and suppressed wages. Accepting it is not defeat. It is the moment you stop waiting for the income to solve the problem and start solving the problem yourself. The designer in Austin is talented. Her work is real. Her passion is legitimate. But passion has never compounded at 7% annually. Intention does not build a retirement account. Autopilot does not care how much you love what you do. And the trap does not loosen its grip simply because the work is meaningful. So here is the only question that actually matters at the end of this. Are you building a financial life on purpose? Or are you building one by default and calling it a career? Because those two paths end in very different places.